the governor of Meru County. And like I told you earlier, is that the speaker will be getting into the chambers, give a communication, of course, guiding the House on how this whole process will take place, and the senators will be retreating to a closed session. I now hand you over to this live broadcast. Good morning.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor and blessings us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Yes. Well, that is the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi. He has taken the chair, but before the commencement of the House business, remember, much as this sitting is on the consideration or the hearing of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the governor of Meru County, the House has to follow the standing orders that at the commencement of a sitting, then the House has to have a requisite quorum. In this case, 15 members need to be in the chambers for the House to commence its business at any particular sitting or at any committee of the whole. So in this case, the bell will ring for 10 minutes as directed by the Speaker. Of course, this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 40. But even before the lapse of the 10 minutes, if the House has achieved or will have achieved the requisite quorum, then the Speaker will call the House to order, of course, and the business will start or rather will commence. But I look at what exactly this sitting is all about this morning. Remember, the Senate usually sits in the afternoon sitting, and today is a Tuesday. Its normal plenary sittings is on an afternoon, but today we are having this sitting on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. and this is purposely to have the hearing of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Meru County governor. So the quorum bell is on. But remember, the House last week resolved to have these accusations against the governor be heard and determined at the plenary sitting. So today marks the official sitting. And this was determined on Tuesday of 31st. And the both sides, that is the county assembly, remember what has been happening since the House ruled that the investigation or the hearing will be done at the plenary, is that the parties were summoned to the parties, by parties I mean the county assembly and the executive, that is the side of the governor, was summoned to forward their submission to the Senate. In this case, looking at what the accusations the county assembly had leveled against the governor, if there is any evidence, perhaps personal statements, again as sworn affidavits, and any other material that they will be using to defend the accusations that they have leveled against the governor. And they had until Saturday. This was after 4 days, of course, pursuant to the law That is after 4 days once the communication has been done at the Senate on the resolutions by a county assembly on the proposed removal from office of a governor. Within 4 days, both parties are given to forward their submissions to the Senate, and the deadline for this particular case was on Saturday at 5 p.m. Where, of course, both parties, that is the governor's side and the county assembly's side, complied and forwarded their submissions. Of course, from the governor's side, we will be expecting that they give out, of course, evidence to counter the accusations that have been leveled against the governor and any other material that they deem fit to absolve the governor of the charges that have been leveled against her. Of course, the submissions also contained the legal team from both parties. We shall be taking a look at what, or rather who are in those legal teams for both sides. But that is what has been happening since the communication was made at the Senate on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the governor of Meru County, today marking the official commencement of the hearing over the impeachment over Governor Kawira Mwangaza. Remember, this is not the first time governor lands at the Senate with regards to impeachment proposals. Last year, in December, the governor was also at the Senate chambers, of course, the hearing, but remember that time the investigation of the matter was done at the committee stage. Then a report was brought to the plenary, and members had the report or read the report of the committee, and they, at the end of the day, voted on each charge that the governor was facing. This time round, the governor is facing 7 charges, and the members will have an opportunity to scrutinize each and every of this charge. Remember, it will not be investigated at the committee, but at the whole plenary sitting. All members, the 67 members, will have an opportunity to look at these charges. On Saturday, when both parties gave out their submissions, is that the submissions were exchanged between the two parties, each party having a few copies of the other party's submissions. And of course, this is to give them an opportunity to look at what the other party has and also prepare how to defend or how to counter the accusations that have been put forth before the Senate against the governor. And remember also, the members of the Senate also were forwarded a few copies, of course, to take a look at what the accusations are, what the evidence is being tabled, and what documents have been forwarded. Then once they come to the chambers, then they will be having information on how to go about all this matter. Remember, each and every senator will have an opportunity to scrutinize both the governor and the county assembly on what has been forwarded to the Senate with regards to the accusations that are being leveled against the governor. If you are just joining us, it is a quorum bell that is currently underway. The sitting was scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. The Speaker has taken the chair, but there is no quorum at the House to warrant the commencement of House business. 15 members are needed to be in the chambers to enable the House to commence its business, and this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 40. If the quorum is not present, the House business cannot commence, and a quorum bell will be rung for 10 minutes. Of course, this is to alert members that the business of the House or the House is about to start its business, but cannot because the House does not have the required number of members in the chambers seated at the chambers for it to commence its business. So the quorum bell will be on. Members are expected to be walking in. We have seen the Nairobi Senator, Honorable Edwin C. Funa, who is also the Deputy Minority Whip. And he walked out of the chambers to see whether he will be seeing any members, but we saw him, of course, walking back into the chambers. Perhaps there are still no members within the precincts of Parliament, but of course the bell is to alert them that in case you are within the precincts of Parliament, then your presence inside the chambers is highly required to give way or to pave way for the commencement of the House business. Remember, this is a morning sitting on a Tuesday of the Senate, a day that is set aside to hear the impeachment proposals forwarded to the Senate by the Kericho County Assembly. On Tuesday, the Senate resolved to hear and determine this particular case at plenary. So these accusations of the governor or against the governor will be heard at the plenary sitting with all the 67 members of the Senate in the chambers, and will have an opportunity to scrutinize what these charges are. 7 charges are facing the governor. One is on the misappropriation and misuse of county resources. And there are a number of particulars that are within this particular number 1 charge on the misappropriation of misuse of county resources. These particulars may include embezzled county funds through the governor's relatives. She's also accused of having withdrawn county funds through false claims of payment for supplies and service rendered by the governor's relatives, despite being ineligible to tender for or supply goods to the county governors. Those are just but a few of the particulars that the governor is said to have committed in charge number 1 on the misappropriation and misuse of county resources. Charge number 2, the governor is accused of nepotism and related unethical practices. In this case, having fraudulently represented unqualified relatives as a technical team for medical equipment inspection in China. Also employed one Edwin Mutuma Murangiri, a nephew to her husband, in a key county position. Also assigned diplomatic duties with engagements with foreign diplomats. And all right, the speaker has directed that a further 5-minute quorum bell be rung, of course, to allow the members to walk into the chambers. Let me take you back to what the quorum bell is all about. Earlier on, when the chair was taken by the speaker, a prayer was said, and according to the House Standing Order number 40, is that once the prayer is done and the House lacks the requisite quorum, that is 15 members in the chambers. As you can see, there are no members seated in the chambers. We can only see one senator, that is Honorable Edwin Sifuna, of course. There are also other members nominated, Senator Catherine Muma there. So if the House does not have a requisite number, that is 15 members in the chambers seated at the commencement of House business, then a quorum bell will be on for 10 minutes. We have seen the quorum bell being rung for 10 minutes. And according to the House Standing Order is once the 10-minute quorum bell expires, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 10 minutes. In this case, the Speaker has given that directive that another 10-minute quorum bell be rung. And once the second 10-minute quorum bell lapses and there is no quorum achieved yet, then the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate forthwith to the next sitting. That is what the House Standing Order stipulates. And of course, we are hoping that the quorum will be achieved. Remember, the Senate normally on Tuesday sits at 2:30 p.m. in the plenary sittings or proceedings. But today, following the business that is before it, this morning sitting was set aside to have the impeachment hearing over the Meru Governor, Honorable Kawira Mwangaza. This is after the county resolved to have her removed from office by impeachment. And of course, according to the law, the Senate is the house that will be hearing this particular case. The House last week resolved to have the matter heard and determined in the plenary way, and that is what today should be happening at the Senate chambers. We are hoping that the number will be achieved, but of course, if it's not achieved, then the Speaker will guide the House on the way forward. What was expected this morning is that the Speaker was to give guidance on how the hearing or the process will go. The sitting was starting at around 9. The Speaker make a communication to the House to guide them on how the hearing, the impeachment of the governor will be taking place. It is scheduled to start today and conclude tomorrow on Wednesday. But of course, there has to be a communication on how it will go. And after the communication, the members were to retreat to a pre-hearing meeting. This is to be on a closed-door session. So we will be waiting to hear from the Speaker on how he will be guiding the House forthwith if the quorum is not achieved. But we are hoping that the quorum will be achieved. At least 15 members are needed to be in the chambers for the commencement of the House to kick off. On Tuesday, when the House resolved to have the hearing of the impeachment be done the plenary way, according to the House Standing Order, is that within 10 days, it shall investigate the matter. So the House received the communication of the resolution of the County Assembly on Tuesday. And of course, from Tuesday, the Senate is counting 10 days to be able to investigate the matter. If the accusations are substantiated or not substantiated, then the communication or the way forward will be given. But remember, today marks the beginning of this impeachment hearing of the Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. So if you're just joining us, that is a 10-minute quorum bell still on. Allow me to take a look at what the charges or accusations that have been leveled against the governor are. There are 7 charges. The first is the misappropriation and misuse of county resources, nepotism and related unethical practices. That is the Senator of Nairobi County, Honorable Edwin Sifuna, walking to the Senator, of course, engaging him on how they will be picking up this matter if the House does not achieve the requisite quorum to enable it commence its business for this particular morning. Charge number 3 against the governor is that bullying, vilification, and demeaning other leaders. In this case, the governor is said to have excluded the deputy governor from county executive committee meetings and other official functions. The governor is also said to have engaged in bullying and posted demeaning messages about the deputy governor in WhatsApp groups. In this case, known as Third Government 012, the county admin services, whose membership includes several officers who are subordinate to the deputy governor. The governor is also accused of illegal appointments and usurpation of statutory powers. That she appointed Kenneth Mwiti Riungu as chief officer without county assembly approval. That she deployed other persons to perform the functions of those sent on compulsory leave, this being in breach of a court order. Also appointed unqualified persons as acting chief officers without the requisite competitive recruitment and recommendation from the County Public Service Board. She's also said to have recruited traffic marshals without involving the County Public Service Board, in this case disregarding the criteria for establishing county offices, that is the Kitui. Senator Honorable Enoch Wambua walking in. And of course, we are hopeful that more members will be getting into the chambers, because this day has been set aside purposely to transact the business on the impeachment hearing over the Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. The hearing is slated for today and tomorrow, Wednesday, the 8th of November. And the Speaker, who has already taken the chair, was to make a communication this morning guiding the House on how this process will be taken through. And then the members were to proceed on a pre-hearing meeting in a closed session. But the members have not yet made their way to the chambers for that particular guidance or communication from the chair to know how they will be going about this matter. And that necessitated, or rather that is what has necessitated the 10-minute quorum bell. That is Narok Senator, who is also the minority whip, Honorable Olekina Ledama. They are getting in. So as the quorum bell is on, we will be seeing the members walking in. Once the quorum is achieved this time round, being hopeful that the sergeant at arms will alert the clerk and the speaker that the quorum has been achieved, and the speaker will call the House to order for the commencement of the House. But as you can see, no members yet to make the requisite quorum. At the table of the speaker, engagements are on from the clerk to the a number of senators there. Of course, maybe engaging on how this will be picked up if the quorum is not achieved. But this is the second quorum bell. Remember, the first one has lapsed, and this is the second bell. That is the Vihiga Senator, Godfrey Osotsi. And of course, we will be hearing from the Speaker on how he will be guiding the House the way forward if the quorum is not achieved. 15 members, just to remind you, is the number that is required. The Speaker is talking. Let's listen in.
The bell for a further 10 minutes.
Yet another 10-minute quorum bell. If the 10 minutes this time round lapse, that will be a cumulative of 30 minutes. Is it that the members were not aware that the sitting will be starting at 9? Maybe they thought it will be starting at 9:30 as the usual, or rather the normal plenary sitting, especially the one that is held on a Wednesday. It usually starts at 9:30. Perhaps the members will be making calls to their colleagues to remind them that this morning there was this sitting that is meant to be hearing the impeachment proposals from the County Assembly of Meru that resolved to have the Governor, Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, be removed from office by impeachment, and that the Senate on Tuesday resolved to have this matter be heard and determined at the plenary sitting or the plenary way. Remember, the Senate last week found itself a bit sharply divided on how to, or rather the best approach to hear and determine this case, and the majority of the numbers resolved to have the matter be heard and determined at the plenary sitting. A number of impeachment hearings that have taken place at the Senate is that have been heard and determined at a committee level of 11 members, but this was not agreed upon last week when they were looking at the best approach to look at this matter, and the matter was resolved to be heard at the plenary. So this marks the first sitting and first day to hear the impeachment. proposal as forwarded to the Senate. And this morning, the House was to sit, get a communication from the Speaker and guide them on how to go about the case. Then the members were to proceed on a pre-hearing meeting, or rather retreat on a pre-hearing meeting in a closed-door session, then resume the sittings and be open to the public at around 11 a.m. So up until now, the chair, or rather the Speaker, has taken the seat. A few members are in the chambers, but the quorum is the elephant in the house. It has not been achieved yet. 15 members have not been able to make their way to the chambers to enable the House to commence its business. Of course, we can say that is paralyzing the House business this morning. And of course, we'll be waiting to see whether the quorum is achieved. If this quorum bell that is currently underway, it is another 10-minute quorum bell that is underway. It's a 10-minute. If the number is not achieved at the lapse of these 10 minutes, then it will be a cumulative of 30 minutes of waiting for the senators to make their way to the chambers for this sitting. Is it because it is a chilly morning, or maybe they thought that the sitting will start at 9:30? We will be waiting to see how that pans out. But as it is that today's morning sitting was the commencement, or mark the beginning of the impeachment hearing of the governor of Meru. This is Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, having been accused of 7 charges by the County Assembly of Meru, and forwarded these charges and its resolution to the Senate to have the matter investigated and determined. 7 charges facing the governor. Earlier on, we looked at 4 charges. The 5th charge is that the governor is accused of contempt of court. She is said to have grossly violated Article 10 and 73 of the Constitution, Section 7 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, and Section 10 of the Public Officers Ethics Act, by engaging in a contumacious, stubborn refusal to obey lawful court orders. Charge number 6 that the governor is accused of is that illegally naming a public road after her husband. This includes grossly violated Articles 10 and 73 of the Constitution, and Sections 7 and 11, 1C of the Meru County Owners and Awards Act 2018, by naming a public road after her husband without following the applicable statutory procedures. The last charge that the governor is being accused of is the contempt of the assembly. She is said to have refused to honor summons from the County Assembly's Sectoral Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Cohesion to answer questions related to the impeachment motion. Also directed her chief of staff to send a contemptuous letter to the assembly in response to the summons for her to appear before the sectoral committee. And through the CECM Finance, this is the Minister of Finance at the county level, and the county secretary refused to furnish documents to the assembly on the grounds that an audit process was underway and that the matters raised by the assembly were sub judice. These are some of the particulars within the 7 charges that the governor is accused of or is facing, and that the Senate at the plenary sitting is expected to investigate, scrutinize, and make a decision on whether these accusations that have been accused, or rather that have been leveled against the governor by the county assembly, will be substantiated or not. But remember, these accusations will be heard and determined at the plenary sitting, or rather the plenary sitting way. On Saturday, the two parties, the two sides forwarded. It was the last day for the two parties to be able to forward their submissions to the Senate. All right, those are more members. That is the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kathuri Murungi, of course, walking in, and followed by various members. Hopefully that the number this time round will be achieved. The time now is 9:33, and we can see the members walking in numbers. And in a few minutes, of course, we are hoping that the Sergeant at Arms will, indicate to us, or rather to the Speaker, that finally the quorum has been achieved. Nyeri Senator, they are walking in with the majority leader, Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot, you see. So the quorum has been achieved. The quorum has been achieved finally at 9:33. So allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast. Good morning.
Much later, kindly take your seats. Honorable Senators, order. Senator Ledama, kindly take your seat. Majority Leader. Majority Leader, you should be helping the chair to bring calm in the House. Clerk, you may proceed to call the first order.
Order number 1, communication from the chair.
Now, honorable senators, you will recall that at the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 2nd November 2023, I appointed Tuesday 7th and Wednesday 8th November 2023 as the days when the Senate will hear the charges for the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Subsequently, a procedural motion for the alteration of the sitting time of the Senate for Tuesday 7th and Wednesday 8th November 2023 to facilitate the impeachment hearing against the Governor of Meru County was considered and approved by the Senate on Thursday 2nd November 2023. Consequently, a hearing program has been prepared and appended to today's order paper. Honorable Senators, as is the tradition, and in line with the schedule of activities for an impeachment hearing and plenary, the Senate will hold a closed preparatory session to discuss the management of the investigation. This is aimed at ensuring that the process is conducted seamlessly and concluded timely, in line with the requirements set out under the County Governments Act and the Senate Standing Orders. I now, therefore, direct that all members of public, including the media, to withdraw from the galleries and any form of broadcast from the chamber to cease forthwith. The open session and hearing will thereafter commence at 11 a.m. as per the hearing program. I thank you.
Well, as I had indicated earlier, is that the Speaker was to make a communication to the senators, guiding them on how the process will be going, and that communication has been made. Then the members are retreating to a pre-hearing session This is a closed session, so they will be done by 11. It will be open to the public at 11 a.m. Allow me to hand it back to our studios in KBC for normal programming. But at 11, we shall be back with the proceedings over the Senate on this day. Good morning.
Very good. Welcome back. That was a brief proceeding from the Senate where we expect the impeachment process and procedure to happen there. The impeachment of Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza happening at the Senate. That is now the committee of the whole house about to take place. But there have been challenges there because of lack of quorum. And now the Senate was forced to call the quorum bell twice, for 5 minutes and then for 10 minutes due to quorum. Remember, there must be a quorum to start the process at the Senate, and that was a challenge that the Speaker, who is now chairing that particular committee, Jefferson Kingi, now faced at the Senate. Now, Kawira Mwangaza is being accused of 7 charges that will be read to her. A couple of them, I will take you through that. 7 charges that she is facing. One of them is the total of 7 charges, rather. We have the misappropriation and misuse of county resources. And of course, we'll get the breakdown during the hearing process at the preliminary stage. Number 2 is nepotism and related unethical practices at the county. Number 3 is bullying, vilification, and demeaning other leaders. Charge number 4 is illegal appointment and usurpation of statutory powers. That is number 4. Number 5, charge number 5 is contempt of court. And again, we have number 6, illegally naming a public road after husband. And finally, contempt of the assembly. So we have got 7 charges leveled against her that will be taking place at the Senate this particular morning. Of course, she has lined up a team of 9 lawyers who will be representing her in that particular case. This is the second time that she is facing an impeachment in 10 months. Let me just say under 1 year or in 1 year. And the county of Meru has never been that peaceful for quite some time since last election. So what is really happening in the county of Meru? Several charges. Last time she survived that impeachment process, and now the MCAs or members of the county assembly are back to it once again. In studio, I have got Madai, who is an advocate of the High Court. And Wanjiru, good morning, first of all. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Rainy moment
Again.
in the country. Yeah, we are here.
We are enjoying the showers.
Exactly.
We are grateful it's not El Nino.
The weatherman says that it's going to continue. Are you ready for it?
Yes, I'm ready for it. I've planted. I'm waiting for a bounty harvest.
Very good.
Are you?
Yes. I should be your neighbor. It's raining at the Senate. I don't want to believe that it's also raining in Meru. Governor Kawira Mwangaza has not seen light ever since she was elected in office. Pun intended. What's your take?
I mean, first of all, let's first address the issue of the method in which the Senate voted for in terms of how they were going to hear these impeachment proceedings. There were 2 options. There was either the plenary's option, which is what they had voted for, or there was the appointment of a special committee constituting about 11 members to hear the matter, as was the case in the first impeachment proceeding. And of course, there was a bit of a debate about which particular method would ensure that the governor would receive fair administration action as envisaged under the Constitution. But the plenary method carried the day. and that is what we are seeing happening in Senate this morning.
Yes.
Of course, there were challenges, there were issues that were raised concerning the plenary session, and one of them being that Senate is notorious for lacking quorum when it comes to hearing of certain
Something
proceedings.
That we've just seen, and it
and that
forced the
has
Speaker to call
come
that
to
bell
yes,
twice.
that has come to pass.
Yeah.
And I hope that will not jeopardize the hearing of the impeachment proceedings, or it will not jeopardize the governor being accorded fair administration action. It's interesting to note, actually, that of all the impeachment proceedings that have been held in Senate, only two have been done through plenary means. The impeachment of Governor Sonko and the impeachment of Governor Waititu,
right.
both of which were upheld.
Yes.
Whereas the other impeachment proceedings that were held through standing special committee did not materialize. So I wonder whether this is by default, or maybe there is some shortcoming as far as the hearing of impeachment proceedings by way of plenary way. Whether there's a shortcoming in regards to the manner in which impeachment proceedings are done in a plenary manner. Nevertheless, I think what I took away from this as far as Senate is concerned is that they need to streamline so that there's no one way or the other. They just need to streamline the manner in which these impeachment proceedings are carried out. There needs to be a unity in the manner in which it is carried out, and it needs to conform to constitutional provision.
Somebody
for
would
fair
argue that it's all about politics. Probably the one for Babaya, Waititu, and Sonko, politics played a major role.
It could be. It could be the reason why they opted for the plenary and not the special committee.
Yes.
But then let's just see how that plays out. I'm sure that the country is now very alert, and it's wondering what exactly is happening in Meru. This is the second time round that this governor is being impeached, and you will notice that the charges that have been brought against her are very much similar to the ones that had been brought against her in the first impeachment.
So what makes the difference then today?
It would be, I'd be interested to see whether the members of County Assembly of Meru took note of the report of the Senate as far as, one, what is the standard of proof required to, as far as evidence is concerned, to prove gross misconduct. And then it would also be interested to see whether they have tabled sufficient evidence.
Yes.
To prove the allegations that they have brought against the governor. So, because what I noticed in the first impeachment proceedings, almost all the charges were dropped against the governor for failure of sufficient and substantiated evidence being tabled. So let's see whether the members of County Assembly have learned from the previous impeachment proceedings, and whether they have taken seriously, what constitutes an impeachable offense, and whether they have now brought sufficient evidence to actually sustain this impeachment.
Why do you think that Governor Mwangaza probably is not seeing the light, pun intended, quote unquote, not seeing the light in running of the county? Because we are now past 1 year after the election, and when you look at the charges, more or less the same as what was presented before the Senate last time, and here we are. What is going to be different in terms of going before the whole House and having a committee?
The difference is more or less the same. There's not that much of a difference in terms of the methodology. Only that the substance, rather, only that in the special committee, there was a select membership of 11 people who gave attention to the issues that were raised, and then they tabled a report before the entire Senate, as opposed to now a wider audience being given an opportunity to interrogate the issues that have been brought before. I personally feel it is a more tidier procedure to go through the special committee. I did not see where the shortcomings were coming from. Of course, there are some senators who are imputing that as women they need to be, their voices also need to be heard in these issues. But it's not a question of voices being heard. It's really a question of the law and procedure.
Right.
And it's a question of facts and evidence. And if this could have been achieved through the special committee, then this did not necessitate us going through the plenary plenary way of hearing of these proceedings. And as you can see, now we are facing a quorum issue. So let's just wait to see how this is going to. Let's just wait to see whether Senate will tidy up its issues.
Okay, she's a witness in her own case. How does it complicate the whole case for her in this kind of scenario? Now she is a witness.
I haven't quite seen the rebuttal or the response that she has tabled. I don't know how that would play out and how that would affect her one way or the other. But it's not usually advisable. But let's just wait and see whether there's enough evidence in any case that would that would warrant her impeachment to be upheld. It doesn't matter one way or the other whether she's a witness. The question is whether the standards have been met with by the
threshold.
Yes.
But let's go back to Meru County. It's now 1 year, and other counties are moving forward in terms of development. They're seeking more funds. What do you really think is now running through the minds of the Meru residents as we speak?
The question really here is what is the underlying issues affecting Meru County Assembly? Because the real issues bedeviling the county could not possibly be the nepotism, the illegal appointments. There must be some underlying issues. I think that this is just a leadership issue, a leadership style issue. Perhaps the members of County Assembly are expecting a more inclusive method of running the government in Meru County. Maybe they are feeling as though they are being sidelined when it comes to the decision making. And they have opted to frustrate the governor.
Selfish if you feel like you're not included in running of the county assembly. But there are total levels of governance in terms of devolution. Why would MCAs in this situation feel that they're so entitled to the governor and they would really want to have control of the governor's office? Yes.
I think this is it always boils down to the resources and whether the MCAs are given the allocated resources to manage their own wards.
Yes.
Because that is the only way that that is the only way that your constituents will see that you're working, and that is the only way you will justify why you will be re-elected, or whether you can proceed to the next, seat, whichever seat you aspire to proceed to. So, the things that matter to constituents is standards of living. Can they put food on the table? Can they educate their children? So, how is a member of county assembly supposed to show that they are working for their constituents if they do not have the budget? They have been debating about their ward funds for the longest time. And I think it's imperative that the governor, adopts a certain level of flexibility when it comes to management of these resources, to just allow them to also participate in terms of and I think that is where the issue is.
Think of it this way. It's going to take 2 days until tomorrow. Then thereafter they're going to give their report. Either they're going to absolve her or she's going to go home. But look at this. What if Senate says there is no case here and she goes back?
And I suspect that could be the case. I highly suspect that.
So what will happen to the MCAs? I
suspect that their goal is to frustrate her until her term ends. And,
quite unfortunate.
And let me tell you how this will play out, which is very similar to how it played out within the Law Society of Kenya. We could have had very competent leaders within the Law Society of Kenya, but there was so much internal wrangles that by the time the tenure of the leaders ended, the members of the Law Society of Kenya were extremely frustrated.
We witnessed that as well.
And they decided that they are not going to re-elect anyone who was from that particular council during that time, regardless of whether you are competent or not. And I think that is where they are headed in Meru, to just frustrate the governor that she's not even able to attend to her duties, and to frustrate the members of, to frustrate the constituents to a point where they're like, let's just get rid of her. If people just don't, if she cannot work with the leaders, let's just get rid of her. Let's try someone else new.
Remember, the Wananchi also have a voice to recall.
Of course, it's all about the Wananchi, yes. And if they just want services, that's all they want. The Wananchi just wants the services. Whoever is going to come and achieve that. That's all they're looking for. And so I think what the MCAs are doing here is they just want to frustrate her until she's no longer,
very quickly, I'm totally running out of time. Number one, misappropriation of misuse and county resources, nepotism and related unethical practices, bullying, vilification and demeaning of leaders, 4 illegal appointments and usurpation of statutory powers, 5 contempt of court, 6 illegally naming a public road after husband, and number 7 contempt of the assembly. Which one do you think can meet the threshold to remove the governor in 10 seconds?
You see, Victor, there are a few of those which will they will be able to substantiate. But remember, you still must convince the Senate that that particular violation is an impeachable offense.
Yes.
Previously,
the difference now.
Yes. Is it an impeachable offense? Previously, the Senate had actually held that the governor had illegally appointed his spouse, but they held that that was not an impeachable offense. So not only must you show that this offense was actually committed, you must also show that it is actually an impeachable offense. Does it meet the threshold? Yes, they have a lot of work cut out for them.
Okay, yeah. I'm told we are running out of time. That was just a sneak peek of what's happening. Wanjiru Maathai, thank you so much, an advocate of the High Court. We've just taken a look at that. It was pun intended. Lady defending a lady. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we'll be coming back later on with that proceeding at the Senate running until tomorrow, and we'll get to hear what the Senate will come up with. Either she will be impeached or she will survive this onslaught. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Victor Lo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Just need to understand the dynamics of the music ministry, and above all, even the journey of the worshippers and the journey of the people that you see on the pulpit.
That is how nilijipata ni kukunywa, ni kuvuta fegi, ni maform kila time.
Unajua life ya club, you have to just unajiwachilianga.
Believe is you know that you have the calling of God in your life. You are doing ministry, not necessarily looking at what you're getting as a reward from men.
And when you get the reward of men, there's nothing you will really ask God for, because you've already gotten your reward.
Celebrating the fact that Danielle and Carolina are now husband and wife legally. They just got married. It was a mistake to fall in love with him. I was his brother's wife.
I know, my friend, but please stop torturing yourself with this.
I knew it! I had a feeling you were going to tell me something like this.